with all due respect.
All right. Gray is it's either first thing in the morning or what is this late at night? November
Yeah, this
6th.
is
This is November 6th. You can take with that as you will. And we are doing, with all due respect, 26 because
7.
27. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
See, with all due respect, 27. And we're doing the, if you guys don't know, Gray has been working since 4 a.m. for y'all.
It's 7:15 right
It is
now.
now
PM.
7:15 p.m. I've been working and we said, you know what? We can't miss a week.
Mhm.
We're doing it. I made my class listen to James Clear today. Talk about we talk about consistency
Mhm.
and we talk about systems before we talk about results. And our consistency and our system is that we committed to doing one of these one a week.
Right.
So here we are, not worrying about the results, worrying about the consistency and the system of doing these. And
That was like
the result will
literally,
come.
that was amazing. That
What?
was so good.
Well, is it really? Should we end it right there?
Yeah,
Hey, y'all,
period.
it's been great. We plugged the guy James Clear, and we're out.
No, that was
We're
like
out.
such a good little starter that I think that's
Yeah,
really important to remember.
thank you. I made the class. I'm making my class, and before we get into it, what we're talking about today, before we get off track, is why you quit, a combo around failure.
Love it.
And that's a tough conversation. And so let's preface that. But I am going over 5 possible books I want to have our class read. Um, and we're watching 30-minute videos of the book first. So I'm like, guys, we're gonna watch some things and you kind of give me feedback. The best feedback I got so far is Atomic
Atomic
Habits.
Habits.
Yeah.
That's so
There's
good.
a book called Drive, the connection between like the brain and activity.
Hmm.
We're talking about Peter Attia's Outlive. We're talking about Dopamine Nation.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and now the best feedback I got was James Clear Atomic Habits.
It's so good.
The kids were
If
like,
you
"Yeah, coach, yeah, that's cool, that's cool."
if you haven't, if you're listening and you haven't read that book, it's something that you absolutely, I mean, I think I can argue for the both of us. It's probably changed a lot of the way that we view things, but also
It
the
blew
way that
my
we
mind.
coach. Yeah.
It blew.
I need to go back and read it again. I feel like I'm
People
due.
say, what's something what's some content I can start reading or listening to around changing my health? I said Atomic Habits.
Hmm.
I said because it's all about habits and systems and creating an identity for yourself as you're not a person that does healthy things, you're a healthy person. That's one of the things
Hmm.
that went with me the most. And that's what I tell people all the time when they're like, "Oh, I just want to start eating better." I said, "No, you want to be a person that is healthy."
Yeah.
Right? It has to become part of your identity. And he uses the conversation about a runner. Don't be a person that runs a couple miles a week. Be a runner.
Yeah. Like
Don't be
make
a
it your
person that goes to the
identity.
gym a couple days ago. Be a health
Hmm.
nut.
Hmm.
Be a gym spaz. Be a gym freak.
Yeah.
Be a gym person. Right? Be a
Yeah.
gym
Make
rat.
it. I firmly believe that too. It's got to be a part of your identity. It's like something that you wake up and that's what you think about. That's what you're going to do for the day.
I
You
used
know?
to make fun of like the CrossFit culture because they all look the same, which is funny because I'm part of the jujitsu culture and we all talk the same, which is just completely hypocritical of myself. But I used to make fun of that and oh, they're not individual. Then you're like, wow, that's part of an identity. That's part of a group. That's part of a culture and a community of people like you that
Hmm.
probably help you be a lot more consistent. Like, Gray, you go to CrossFit gym now.
I do.
Like,
Hmm.
if you didn't go for I mean, your fiance goes too, and you guys, I mean, it was hard because you probably go together and know if you go or don't go and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, don't you think there are people there at CrossFit Taylors, and we'll plug them that like if somebody didn't show up for a couple weeks, they'd be like, "Hey, where are
Oh,
you?"
for sure. No, for sure.
Right?
Absolutely. Every time. And I think that's, I used to be somebody that was like such a lone worker outer, because that's the
Tough.
environment that I was in. But as I've gotten into like a more robust work schedule, I'm somebody that really needs to go to class because it keeps me really accountable. And since I write workouts for people all day long. It's really nice to have
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
else to write
yeah.
somebody up my workouts for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I do think I push myself a lot harder when I'm in that environment, but 100% there is, I mean,
Uh,
there's accountability there. And
yeah.
so, we've talked about this many times before, but if you are not a part of some kind of fitness community, you have to be a part of one because it's going to help you not quit.
If I didn't show up to jujitsu class tomorrow, my buddy Tillman would be like, Josh is dead.
Where are you? Yeah.
They'd be
Yeah.
like, hey guys, Josh isn't here, he's dead.
Yeah.
So, right.
Exactly.
And that's a phenomenal segue into the conversation we're going to have around why people quit, a conversation around
Mhm.
failure. And I'm going to go out and say most people quit because they try to do this alone.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. I think, again, community is all the difference maker.
And community doesn't need to be 20 guys you roll on the mat with. It doesn't need to be 15 people you do a class with. It could be your friend, right? That you
Yeah.
say, I want to lose weight or quit drinking or I want to go for a
Yeah.
walk once a day. Will you go with me?
Yeah, I know you have somebody that you work with that's that way. I have a client that's that way too. She has a walking buddy and they walk like 3 miles every couple days. And it's just good for you because it's changing your scenery. It's getting you involved in somebody that's healthy. It's making those decisions. And that specific client will turn around and tell you 100% if she doesn't get her walks in or get her workouts in, she's more likely to be off track and quit for the week because she hasn't gotten her movement in.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, man, I'll be honest with you, Gray. In the last 3 years, if somebody said, hey, what do I got to do to have success? My fifth or sixth thing or my final thing would have been community, right? I
Mhm.
think that's more of a resemblance of my personality than it is that I'm a self-starter.
Mhm.
I do a lot of things alone. I don't need external motivation, but I do go to when I think it's kind of hypocritical because I do go to jujitsu class because of the community and the kid dudes that are there.
I think it's
Right.
it's probably different in your mindset because you are so self-motivated. So it's like, it's not something you have to have.
Hmm.
It's not something I have to have either. Like when I travel, I could totally go work out at the gym by myself. If I'm not obsessed with the workout at CrossFit for that day, or I'm not into like lifting heavy for that day, I will go work out by myself.
Yeah.
But you still have to have some kind of community around you. So you have to think about all the communities that you have, and that's jujitsu.
Hmm.
You have your job. Your job is considered a community. The
Yeah.
class that you teach is considered a community. Your
Hmm.
family unit is
Yeah.
supportive with
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
So like
I guess when you think about it, you have more community than you think,
100%, and you
right?
should,
And you have more people watching you than you think.
100%.
Right.
Hmm.
So I'm going to say one of my biggest things right now, if you're out there and you're up and down this yo-yo of health and this wellness journey, is find somebody else with you.
Hmm.
Man, I'd love to see the consistency of someone who starts a health journey alone versus the somebody who starts a health journey with somebody else. I bet it's
Hmm.
tenfold.
Yeah, 100%. It
Right.
really is. It really is. I think results change when you have somebody that's pushing with you and for you, and kind of against you too, like with competition.
There's accountability there, right? Like,
Mhm.
the accountability to know that like you're going to walk at 7 a.m. every morning with a friend. And they're going to meet you right outside the door. And
Mhm.
at 6:45, you're like, oh, they're out there. They're out there. They're out
Yeah.
there, and I got to get up and do it. And you do it, and you feel great. So I'm going to
Mhm.
say number one is community. If you're out there failing, one of the things I wrote kind of in our notes too, and I want to get your take on it. Um, and I know you're big on this is patience,
Yeah.
right? Um, I used to say, man, if unless you're committed to this for 2 to 3 months, don't do it. And then you came in and like, screw you, bro. You go, unless you're committed to this for a year.
Yeah.
That's what you say. You're like, this is
Yeah.
not 3 months. I'm like, yeah, yeah, a year, right? I'm just.
Well, I think it's just like you've barely scratched the surface when you get into 3 months. Like you might see a little bit of weight loss. You're not going to have significant muscle gain. And you probably haven't built very strong habits in those 3 months.
Okay.
The only habit you've probably mostly built is getting movement in.
Okay.
But still, people struggle with that. I think it takes a full year to make it a part of your identity, which is what we talked about. And the part like where it becomes your identity is when you won't quit. Like I can tell you after a year of being dedicated to this, I mean, I was hooked really early on, but a year, I can't even say that actually. I really wasn't hooked like early on because I started and I was up and down for a while.
How long have
And
you done
then
it? When I met you, because I remember you the
we met
first
in
time I noticed you,
2019.
2019, 2020, 2019. I think it's 2019 because you had on, do you still have the yellow matching top and bottom?
Mhm. Yeah, I do.
And
Um,
I asked the guy that you're talking to at the gym, I was like, hey, what's her story? I go, she's shrinking like, and not like, what's your story? Like, hey, what's your story?
I
Right.
know.
Although I have done that. Um, it's been more like she's shrink ramping.
Hmm.
Like,
But it was a year after weightlifting that I became hooked. Like I became a gym rat.
yeah,
Because at first, like my journey with working out was like kind of in the gym, kind of running, not really knowing what
yeah.
working out like was
What's
beneficial for
consistency?
me.
What the
I
consistency
was
look
still
like?
very deep in college.
Mhm.
Like, I started in 2016, which would have been my sophomore year, the end
Okay.
of my sophomore year into my junior year. And I was running, doing cardio. That's
Because
pretty much it.
what I noticed was like I'd see you and I'm like, oh, she's serious. She's following a plan. I like notice
Mhm.
doing what I do when I went to a public gym. I work out at a private a gym now that nobody trains at. But um it's just the gym at work. I just go because it's convenient. But going to a public gym, you start to notice like they follow a plan.
Mhm. Oh, I remember
They're
seeing you
they're
before we met.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
And I
100%.
was like, she's doing something. Like
Hmm.
she's
We'd make
serious.
eye contact occasionally. I'd be
Did
like,
we? Like, what
who
are you
is
doing?
this?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Yeah, people are gonna be like, oh, that's weird. No, but like, what's she doing? Like, she's following a plan. Like, this
Mhm.
girl's actually training.
Yeah.
And then like, I wouldn't see you, and like 2 months later, I'd be like, she's got lines on her arms.
Hmm.
I go, she's doing this thing.
Yeah.
And then you talk to somebody that I knew, and I'm like, what's her story? Oh, she's a personal trainer somewhere else. I said, she's changed. Like,
Hmm.
but that is 3 years into this, and it only 1 year
Yeah.
of consistent weightlifting.
Yeah, I bought a workout program online from this girl that I followed, and I was like hooked after that. When I had somebody else kind of write my program and learn how to weightlift, that's when I got hooked on it. But
That's
that's why I
awesome.
say a year, because it had to like become part of my identity to where I didn't want to miss workouts. I was finding a way when I was traveling, when I was home from Columbia, like being in Greenville, I was finding a way to work out. I
Yes,
was never giving
yes,
up,
yeah. Because
when
you were never like, hey, I wonder if I'll make it to the gym this week. You just wake
no,
up on Sundays and Mondays and be like, it's just part of what I do. I
it's
go to
part
the
of what I
gym.
do.
I eat
Yeah.
breakfast.
Hmm.
I take care of myself. I go for my walks. Like I study. I'm interested. Like it just became part of it. And that takes a long
Yeah.
time for that to become part of you. And the reason people quit is you go 6 weeks and don't see nothing.
Hmm.
You go 3 months and see a little. You fall off the wagon after 4 or 5 months and you're frustrated. The scale doesn't really change. You don't really see, and you put in all this work
Hmm.
and delayed gratification is talked about in Dopamine Nation, the book Dopamine Nation. Delayed gratification is very, very hard for the majority of people. Um, because we're addicted to the stimulus of instant gratification.
Well, yeah, and there's very few things in life that takes time, right? Like a lot of tasks that you do on a daily basis, unless it's some kind of work project, don't take a lot of time. They're going to take a day or a week or whatever. It feels a little bit more like instant gratification. Even like doing a house renovation project, it's like you see it come together
Yeah,
over time. You just have to think the same with your body. You have to wait and see it come together over time. It just takes time to do all of these things. Obviously, if you go and paint a room in your house,
it's
that's
blue.
not gonna, yeah,
Yeah,
like it's gonna
yeah.
happen. You have to trust the process as far as strength training that it will happen. You just have to be patient.
You eat healthy and train 3 days a week and go for a walk on your off days for 2 months. You might not. Now, depending, you could crash,
Here
right?
you'll
You could
be
crash diet.
different.
Yes. Wow,
Hmm.
right? Up top, you'll be different. But
Hmm.
like, unless you're crash dieting, which is horrible for you because it's not long term anyway, you're not going to see a whole lot. And that's why people
Hmm.
quit because it's hard because you don't see it long term, but it does change how you feel.
Yeah.
I think that's, to me, the second reason um people quit is because they're not patient enough, right?
Hmm.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows who Gary Vee is, right? Everybody says
Hmm.
everybody's successful, they just didn't wait long enough. Nobody's
Hmm.
a failure, they just didn't wait. They just were too much of a hurry. They didn't wait long enough.
Yeah. Don't be in a
Think about
hurry.
your business of online coaching. And if like,
Hmm.
what if like all you did was be like, well, I gotta do this. I'm gonna give this thing 2 months. Mm-mm-mm. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
give it two
Right.
months and then I'll quit.
Like you can't do that. So I
Yeah.
think people just aren't patient enough with, training themselves, like we are talking about. But, plenty of people, if you're building a business, you're very patient with that. You're very
Because
patient with work. You have to apply the same discipline and patience and mindset to working on yourself and
you
your
got to
health.
go in
It's
and
not going to
check off. You got to
happen.
go check off days. I
Mhm.
said one of my favorite groups of people to work with, and it's because of what I've done previously, owning a gym or a training center for athletes, is dealing with kids right off an injury, like an
Mm.
ACL injury.
Mhm.
And an ACL injury or Achilles injury can be like, if you tear it December, November of 2024, guess when you're going to be okay? November of 2026. Like it's a year. And for
2025.
a, yeah, for 2020, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
2025, like it's a year. And to tell a teenager, it's a year, that's 20 years to a teenager. Like, remember when you were a kid and someone's like, hey, your friend will come visit you next month. You're like, next month? That's forever,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And what I told a kid today tore his ACL in April or
Mm.
April, May. And he's past the rehab part. Now he's back to like the true functional lifting training. I said, hey, man, you got to get to the point where you just start checking off days.
Mhm.
Day one, boom. Day two, boom. Day three, boom. And you're just this robot. Boom,
I think you have
boom,
to find the
boom,
wins in every
boom.
day too, though. Like that's a little bit more of your instant gratification. And I try to remind clients of that. I'm like, your instant gratification at the gym is completing the workout and how you feel.
Hmm.
It might be grabbing a different weight that you haven't touched before. It might be doing an exercise to its entirety and not feeling tired or being able to complete it with correct form. Like that's the stuff that you have to rely on for instant gratification. Your physique is the long-term destination.
Yeah. People say, every time I go to school and buy the lunch that's there, I always check out the lunch anyway because I'm always kind of seeing what we're giving our kids, right? Like it's we got the Make America Healthy thing now, so I am always kind of like seeing what they're feeding kids and what kids choose and what they eat, just because it's just data. I'm just taking in
Mhm.
data, right?
Mhm.
What are they doing?
Yeah.
What are kids doing? What are they doing? I check in. I go in and buy food, and I can't tell you, Gray, how many times they'll serve me a food and they'll be like, "You eat buns? You eat a bun and fruit?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah."
I'm not insane.
And or if I have like a blow pop, someone would be like, "You got a blow pop?" And I'm like,
Like, what do you think I am?
"Yeah, I eat way more normal." But when I tell
Mhm.
people I can do that a lot is because I've been doing this so long.
Mhm.
Like 2 burgers and a blow pop
Ain't gonna do
ain't
much.
gonna do
I
much,
know. I
right?
can
But
have like 3 weeks of not great eating and it's
yeah,
not gonna do
you're gonna
much.
have a little rocked up little body anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But it's because of what
Now,
we do in our off time.
yes, now you'll feel crappy, right?
Oh
You'll feel
yeah.
crappy, right?
Feel garbage. Mhm.
I hop a couple weeks ago for lunch and I ate like an omelet and eggs, and I'll be honest with you, it ruined my mood for the rest of the day. I
Mhm.
felt so crappy. I was in a bad mood and I was agitated.
Oh, I believe it. I
Um,
believe it.
the third thing, so we went over community,
Mhm.
then we talked about patience.
For sure.
One of the biggest things I've done in my coaching of people with fitness and nutrition online, like having online coaches, is consistency calendar, and I got that from you.
Mhm.
Um, I saw a post today of how Allison Farnbach does her consistency with people. She does days. They have consistency days, and she does it by the
Mhm.
week out of 7.
Mhm.
Like how many days were consistent? 4 out of 7, 3 out of 7, 2 out of 7, right? I like the 30-day consistency calendar with how many days you hit your
Mhm.
goals. I think a large majority of people quit because they're not getting results because they don't understand what consistency is,
For sure.
right?
Mhm. Big time.
Um, explain to us, and if you've watched our podcast before, this is going to be redundant, but I'm going to say it again because everybody fails here. Everybody, everyone, 100% of people fail here. Um, what is consistency when you say, I want you to be consistent on this program? Most people will be like, yeah, I'll do it once in a while. But what is real consistency on a program?
So we deem consistency at least 80% of the month, which is in a 30 to 31 day month, about 5 or 6 days off track, but not being an asshole off track. Like
Yeah,
you missed the mark by a little bit.
yeah,
It might be 3 days where you were an asshole,
yeah.
right? So we call those our asshole days. And
SOE recognized.
my clients will text me and they'll be
Yeah.
like asshole day. And I'm like, it's okay.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
moving on.
you got
Yeah.
one more in you.
Just don't do two. Yeah, don't do two in a row. Right.
But
Yeah.
like, and that applies to your workouts, your sleep, and your nutrition. Now, of course, workouts are not going to be every single day, but I argue for most people, you need to be working out about 50 to 60% of the month as far as strength training at least. And you should still be moving in some capacity between 80 to 90% of the month. So whether that's walking
Yeah, I was
or
gonna ask you
doing
what you run.
yoga, yeah. So like you should still have active days. You should still be doing things for yourself. I think the confusion, you're right, is the consistency is like 60-40 or 50-50, and that's
Yeah,
not true. And when you're first getting started on this, the closer that you can come into like 85,
90s.
90%, you're
Yeah.
going to have way better results. And I know that's strict, but still looking at 90% off track, that's one day every week that you could have
Hmm.
off target. Take a Saturday. You can be off target. You know, I have a few clients that won't track Saturdays, and that's the only day they don't track because they know it's going to be off target. They're out to eat, they're doing whatever. I'm like, that's fine, but I need Sunday to Friday to be perfect, you
Mike
know?
says he goes about it with clients. Most people eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Hmm.
Right. That's 21 meals.
Hmm.
Mike says he tells people I need 18 of those meals on point.
Yep. That's the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Exactly. I tell clients the
I need
same thing.
eight.
I'm
I need
like,
18 of those 21 meals on point.
yeah. And
Right.
I also remind clients a lot too, because I think this gets heavily confused. You can have an off target meal and not have an off target day. So you can have 2 slices of pizza at dinner, and that's going to be about 500 calories. It doesn't mean that breakfast, lunch, and your snacks are also off target. So I think it's important to remember that too. If you make a not as great decision at breakfast or lunch, dinner can still be really on target and you can have an on target day.
And that's where a lot
That's
of
really
people
important.
that's where really people struggle too, because how many people, and I have a client like this, and I don't understand this, but so much of things I don't understand is because I don't understand it. But the more and more I work with people, the more and more people I see with similar issues, I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
real.
Yeah.
Like this issue's real because you're
Yeah.
not the first person that's had this, right? This
Yeah.
two or three, four people. Um, their life, because they have children and jobs or careers, is like my day started off in the morning. Something happened. I didn't get lunch. I didn't get breakfast. I had to grab this on the way, and then I didn't get my workout in, and it was a Monday, and so it's just like screw it, and it turned into the whole week.
Mhm.
Like, they think that if it's not perfect or if they miss a day, that they ruined it, and
Mhm.
that's the next morning is no breakfast. Then
Mhm.
it's cheese and crackers for lunch, and they'll grab Wendy's on the way home. They won't go to
Mhm.
the gym. Like that mindset to me also leads. This is a
100%.
mindset
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with.
100%. And that's a huge, I think 100% of my clients could tell you that's a huge thing I work on with them of not throwing it all away because you had one bad meal or one bad day. Cause I'll tell them, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I really don't.
No,
Like
I don't
I'm
care.
I'm
No,
gonna
yeah.
tell you if it's too much, and I'm gonna tell you if I'm seeing things inside of your pattern of eating that's too much and that's what's keeping you from your goals. But if I see the occasional couple of drinks and pizza and wings and what,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't give a shit because I do
Yeah.
it too. And I
If
can't hold
life
you
hit
to
you
a
in the
higher
face,
standard than myself.
if life hit you in the face and your kid's got the flu and now you're staying home and you're
Okay.
busy because he threw up all over the place, he didn't eat until 12 o'clock. You got no you drink soup because he had soup with you at lunch, and you guys didn't eat dinner and you both fell asleep on the couch at 7.
What's one day of
Life, bro.
365?
Life, bro.
Yeah. It's
It's
really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme
Here's
of
when I got a
things.
problem. I had a work meeting on Saturday night or Tuesday night. It was an evening meeting, and I just wasn't prepared. Like, wait, you know you had the meeting. It's on your schedule, right? Like,
Yeah. So
those are the days. Those are the things I struggle with. Grace, they're like, oh, I had a 5 hour call I had to be on. Well, when did you
you,
schedule it? Last week.
yeah. So
Okay, eat before and that. Like,
you phrase it in a way where it's like, okay, so what did you learn? And how
yeah,
are you going to do it next time? So
yeah,
you're going to have that again. I tell
yeah.
people, I'm like, if you go through a tragedy or you're going to a different job or you're moving or whatever, the obstacle is, I'm like, it's probably going to happen again.
I was on the road traveling for 6 hours and I didn't have anything, so we
So I'm
went fast
like,
food. Why didn't you bring food, moron? You know you're
if
going
you're
somewhere.
gonna go, you can go to fast food. There's plenty of options
Oh,
at a fast food
we had
restaurant.
that conversation in my class
Hmm.
because kids are like, "Oh, coach, fast food." I go, "Y'all," and I brought you up. Said my business partner Gray. I said, "Char grilled chicken wrap,
Hmm.
right? It's
Hmm.
you just choose the bacon." He's like, "Yeah, I chose the baconator coach." Like,
Right,
yeah, like
exactly.
you
But
just
remember how we talked with Mike about putting power back into people's decision making? That's exactly what you're doing. I'm putting the power back in my decision making where I can either go to Chick-fil-A and I can get a large fry and a sandwich and make that my decision, or I can get the wrap.
yeah,
And it's taking emotion out of the decision and telling myself I have the choice.
you have the power to completely make that
Hmm.
choice.
Hmm.
Within that conversation around consistency, I think we still got to address that situation issue with moderation, right?
Cool.
I
Hmm.
think I do work myself towards more moderation personally.
Hmm.
I do think there's a lot of people that give me like when a client when a client gives me that bullcrap moderation, sometimes at the end of a bad week, they're like, "Well, it's just moderation, right?" I'm like, "No, it's
No.
discipline first.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
moderation first. It's discipline first for the first 6 months,
Hmm.
3 months,
Yeah.
6 months. After that, you can
Well,
have moderation."
a little bit more moderation, but it's still discipline will always come first. Like, and I stand by you and entirely when you say this, you don't earn shit. Like you don't
No,
deserve it, like
no.
that. I think I do believe your moderation can be earned over time, but
Mhm,
still I'm not going to look at myself and be like, oh, I earned all this moderation
mhm.
because I've been working hard for 5 years. No,
Do you
I
like
haven't
cheat
earned
meals? Are you
anything.
cheat? Do you believe in? I don't
No,
promote cheat
because
meals.
again, that's emotion. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go into Saturday like, oh, I can't wait to have a cheat meal. And this is kind of what we talked about with our Thanksgiving episode with holidays. Is like I'm not making my decisions emotional. If I want to have something that's off target, I will have it and I won't think about it. If I want to, I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of people and we're at a barbecue restaurant and I want to get salad, I'm gonna get that and I'm not gonna feel guilty about doing it because that's what I want in that moment.
Mhm.
I don't think about it.
Yeah, I've never been to me, cheat meals are like a little extra calories here and there within the food, but I don't have like this sit down cheat meal of like Five Guys burgers and fries because I've earned it. I'm like, no,
I think it's an excuse. I do. And I think it makes things emotional. And I just don't think there should be any emotion inside of this journey because there already is enough.
I don't think it
It's,
creates healthy habits with have a
I
healthy mindset
agree.
with food.
I
I
agree.
think you can
Like
become very unhealthy with food. Food
it's a
reward.
choice.
Food rewards to
Mhm.
me is a scary place when
Right.
people start
Like
having food reward.
you're attaching more
Right.
emotion than you need to. And I
Well,
just
I
don't
like
think that's the
that. I
right way
like you
to do
saying that,
things.
attaching
Mhm.
emotion to it. Right.
Yeah.
I like that. I think people moderate themselves out of success.
Hmm.
And they become very emotional. But there are people that a food, I use it all the time. Erica said her greatest fear when she lost 140 pounds that she had so much joy from food that if she didn't have joy from food, where would her joy come from? And
Yeah.
that was that's honestly one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever heard somebody say on our podcast. She goes, I had so much joy from food. If I took the joy from food away, where would I have joy in my life? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I pondered on that for a week.
Yeah, and I think she would probably echo this. You can still have joy in food. I love food,
Oh, because she's a tough booger now.
Yeah,
She's a tough.
yeah. But like it's like food has a different purpose for me now. Like I've always loved food. I've always really enjoyed food. I also
You're a
to tell
foodie.
you,
You're a
yeah,
foodie.
like we
Yeah,
love to go out to eat.
yeah.
I love it. I think food is art. I think having a chef that cooks really well is art. I always enjoy food. I think when Alston gets on the grill, it's like one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah.
But there's different purpose behind it now. And the decisions that I make around it are better. It's not like, oh, I'm getting joy from eating Chick-fil-A French fries that I could go and eat every single day. I'm getting joy from food that's like beautiful and good for me and makes me feel good, you know?
There is something sushi's like that for me. Japanese.
Oh God.
See, I can do straight sashimi. I
Yeah.
can do straight sashimi, like just the fish in the rice
But it's
with
enjoyable, you
soy
know?
sauce, and I can
Same.
just go like two hands
And
and
edamame.
and eat it, and people are like, "That's just fish and rice." Yeah, but it's so good, so
It's
like it's
so
so
good.
fresh, and like I feel good when I'm done. Like I don't like saucy foods.
But there's your joy. It's like
Yeah,
that's a
I
joy.
enjoy
Like,
that. I enjoy
yeah,
that because it feels. I tell you, I get a lot of joy by doing things that are good for my health.
right.
I really do. I
But
really do.
that's now a part of your identity. So like
Yeah,
wrapping it all back up, you've
yeah,
made that a part of your identity. Same for
yeah.
me. I enjoy that,
So
you
we
know.
talked about community, patience.
Hmm.
What's real consistency,
Hmm.
right? I'm going to say the number one of this is in the top four, and this is in no specific order. I just kind of wrote them down on my phone. We can talk about this. One of the major deterrents to people that lead to all the other things is inappropriate goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about this today, and it's very much back to atomic habits of setting goals, right? You set systems, not goals. And everybody's heard of SMART goals, right? You gotta have SMART goals, gotta have SMART goals. Um, I ask every client when they come to me, I said, what's success look like for you?
Hmm.
Like if we're done with our coaching and it's over and you're done, what does success look like? And they go, 30 pounds lost.
Hmm.
And I said, okay. I said, write that down and that's fine, right? But I want you to know that that 30 pounds is going to be a culmination of all of these main big habit changes that we have that lead to a 30 pounds, right? Just like if you're a coach, people say, hey, the goal, people always want to win, but winning is the product of all the other things you do for 3 months leading up to that, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think people set unrealistic goals for themselves because I've heard this for 15 years. They attach a number to what success is.
Hmm.
Um, they set high goals to be done in a very short amount of time.
Hmm.
That puts a lot of pressure on themselves. They find they're not on track on a couple weeks. They say it's impossible and then they quit.
For
And
sure.
whatever weight they do lose, they gain it all back. And then a year
Yeah.
later, they come back and say, I'm ready to do it again. They say, I got to do this. Um, I tell a majority of people, now I do believe in weighing every day. We do that.
Hmm.
That's me and you thing that I talk about. I do believe in weighing every day. Research shows that they keep it off longer, they lose faster.
Hmm.
But I believe that in the first 30 days with every single one of my clients, we don't have a weight loss goal. We have a habit goal,
Yeah.
right? In your experience, have you found unrealistic goals to be an issue with people?
All the time. All the
What
time.
do you
And
see?
well, it's a lot of the time it's weight loss specific.
Hmm.
And I tell people immediately as soon as they start working with me, I'm like, I can't guarantee you weight loss. I'm
Hmm.
not going to, because at the end of the day, it's about the work that you do. So if you take your first month on and you made a goal to lose 5 pounds in a month and you came in at 50-50 consistency, and then you're like, well, I tracked every single day. Okay. You only were on target for 50% of the
Yeah,
month.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
Tracking is
can
not the magic.
dial
Like,
that
yeah,
back.
yeah. A
Yeah.
person
You
that's
know,
tracked 2,800 days. Magic's not the tracking is not the magic. Tracking
yeah.
accurately and being within your goals is the magic, right?
Right, right. So and you're like this too. Like we try to manage expectations with clients and make sure that they set appropriate goals. And so I ask clients to set weekly, monthly, and yearly goals, just
Mm.
because I think it manages things a little bit better. And when I tell them to list out their weekly and monthly goals, I'm like, it doesn't always have to be fitness and nutrition related because I think everything's connected. So I think, if that sleep goal is a good habit that you'd like to go into,
Hmm.
I had one client that did thank you notes because she had just gotten married. She was like, this has been weighing on me. I need to get thank you notes done. I'm
Hmm.
like, that's a great goal. Make that a goal because that will take stress off of you and you will have more free time to do the things that you need to stay on track.
Hmm.
So I'm like, that's a great goal to have for yourself. You can still make that a part of your health goal.
I recently had a client, without me saying it, after our conversation with Allison, I really started going back to a couple of clients that are struggling. And I really realized that like stress on the middle-aged premenopausal in the 40s woman
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
a huge factor.
Hmm.
And I had a conversation with a client after our conversation with Allison, and I went to pull up her consistency calendar on a Sunday, and she added sleep score
Hmm.
to it. And holy cow, if I am not seeing a difference
Yeah.
in what goes on in her body with her sleep score and the
Hmm.
connection to everything else. I
Hmm.
I don't know if she's seen it yet, but I see it in comparison to the day she walks in the sun, the day she
Hmm.
gets a lift, the day she's off on her calories, what her sleep score, what the stress has been like. And and I'm just like, wow, I'm so glad. And she did it on her own.
Hmm.
So now the sleep score is kind of part of our goal sheet, right?
Hmm.
And if you didn't sleep that, what did you attain it to? It usually goes back to stress,
Yeah,
right? And stress.
definitely.
She's redoing a lot of part of her home. She's got a child getting ready to go off to college and a child getting married and a house they're trying to remodel.
Yeah. So like
And I'm
that's a
just like, oh my
lot
God,
going
that's a
on.
lot. And that
Yeah.
affects your goals, right?
Right,
So
exactly. So manage those. They don't have, I think people walk in and they think that goals have to be really, really big. And I'm like, that's just not how things work. It really isn't.
that's social media, right? That's
Yeah.
seeing an article that's like so and so lost 30 pounds. And I'm
Yeah.
like, they're like, oh, this girl lost 30 pounds in a month. I'm like, no, she didn't,
No,
you
she
gotta stop.
didn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that's an important one. So is just make sure you're setting, it doesn't mean be easy on yourself. Like don't make soft ass goals, but be realistic, right? So
yeah,
like,
100%.
and make, you can always set a goal and it could be aggressive. And my clients and I always have it like we have check-ins every week, but we'll have a check-in at the end of the month where we kind of talk about everything that went on. And I'm like, do you feel confident in your goals? And here's what I observed as your coach. And then I have some clients that'll just like hold on to the same goal because they didn't quite reach it, and they might
Yeah,
dial back goals. And I think it's important to remember too that it's okay to dial back goals.
yeah, it's okay to regress.
Mhm.
It's
There's
okay to
there's
be like,
nothing
yeah,
wrong.
there's totally not, we can't get to the point that we stop.
Hmm.
I have had plenty. One thing you talk very well on is how based on what's going on in your life, you change your goals and your tracking and your exercise
Hmm.
based on like holidays, travel, running a marathon, getting this,
Yeah.
getting that. You've done
Yeah.
really good with the dial tone. I call it the dial tone.
Hmm.
Sometimes you turn the dial tone up, and then with life you turn it back, but you never
Yeah.
turn it off.
Never turn it off. I
Yeah,
can't.
you
I don't
never
know
turn
how.
it off. You
But
never turn.
comes back to
Now,
identity.
yeah, it might be a 20,
Hmm.
it might not be 100, it might be a 40, it might be 70.
Hmm.
You might do 80 for a couple weeks.
But it's
Then
never
you got to turn it
zero.
down, but it's never zero, right?
Never zero.
And I really want my when I have clients that communicate with me that they've done it so many times they've done it, but then they quit.
Hmm.
I talk to them about the dial mode, and I tend to have conversations with them, and they give feedback. It's like, yeah, I'm struggling, but you know what? I'm nowhere near where I was.
Right.
I'd normally quit, but
Hmm.
I'm not quitting. But this is the
Right.
time I would normally quit,
Hmm.
right? She
Exactly.
goes, but I'm not because I know there's things I can do. I'm not going back there. So that's always good, right? So I think why people don't have sex.
What?
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 What? Who's that? What? Why people
Huh?
don't have what? Why people don't have success? I'm I'm definitely going to clip that in and put it in our things. Why people?
Yeah, post that on Sunday
Yeah,
before it comes
post that
out.
on Sunday.
Just post that so people think that we're talking about just all of
Yes,
sex.
and then we probably get a lot of viewers, and we change our
Mhm.
podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, do you watch? Do you watch Netflix?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you're a
I
human
don't live
being,
under
right?
a rock.
There's this thing called Netflix. I don't know if you've heard about it, but they actually have their own shows.
It's crazy.
Um, there's a show called Nobody Wants This.
Oh no, I haven't watched that.
It's who's the girl that was in, she's married to Dak Shepard.
Kristen Bell.
Okay. She
She's funny.
plays she plays a podcast who talks, it's a sex podcast, sex and
Oh my God.
singleness,
Funny.
but she accidentally kind of meets and falls in love, starts dating this guy. He's a rabbi.
Oh, perfect. She's
And
funny.
when
She's
I
really
tell you
funny.
it's so uncomfortable and awkward,
Hmm.
I watch it and
She's normally in shows like that.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no. And and uh it just reminded me that I was like, maybe we just changed the whole format of our show. But
Perfect. I'm in.
when people don't have success, I think we hit on the four things, right? Community.
Hmm. Five. Yeah. Five. I
Did we
think
do five? What were the five?
community, patience, consistency, moderation, and goal
Yeah.
setting.
And goal setting, right?
Hmm.
Those five things need to be somewhere, like riding the way of
Hmm.
to have success. So if you're not having success, I think adjust those, look at those five,
Check those things.
check those five, and deal with. I think once again, we're just sharing what we see with our clients.
Right.
That's really
Hmm.
all we do here, right? To share what we do with our clients, share what we do. I don't ever want to share what I do with myself because I'm like, I don't want to scare people, right? Well, what when people are like, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, time
Well,
out.
I
Yeah,
overtrain, I
yeah. I
overwork, I eat
overtrain.
a
I'm hurt over
shit
time.
ton.
I eat a lot. My sleep sucks. Um,
My
like they're like,
HRV is in the
yeah,
garbage
HRV.
can.
I went through my HRV was 58 to
That's
61.
so good.
Check this out. I ran out of the magnesium that Mike had me do.
Yeah, I
And
need to get
I'm like,
more.
oh, let's just see what happens. 38, 39, 38, 39,
Hmm.
42.
Okay, so I need to get more too. I'm gonna
And
ask
I'm
Mike
like,
what I
wait,
need to get.
and I'm gonna go to Mike and I'm like, Mike, this stuff works.
It's a
I'm
drug.
telling you, 58, 59, 61,
Hmm.
like clockwork on this stuff. I ran out. It took me about 3 or 4 days. I finally ordered it back. Never had a HRV last week above 41.
Yeah. Okay,
I
that's
got
my
off
issue
that
too
make
then.
isn't that insane? Like
No,
I
because
don't know why
I
I'm
was
still
taking
amazed
it,
things work. I'm such a cynic, right? I'm like,
especially when Mike says it.
yeah, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? Like Mike would be like, Josh, here's what I want you to do: go bang your head against the cement wall, and I'd be like,
And
oh,
I do it.
feels
I would
good.
do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. And when you bleed, just walk around, right?
Okay, perfect.
And I'm like, okay, and you'll feel
Sold.
great, right?
Hmm. Like if
But
anybody said to blindly follow Mike, I would literally be his puppet.
well, here's why, and this might get a little weird. This might get a little weird. Here's the deal: he's in medicine,
Hmm.
and he's gonna be graduated in like 4 weeks from PA school.
Hmm.
One, he's a cynic.
Hmm.
He is ridiculously trustworthy and ethical
Hmm.
to the point that I'm just like, Mike, we got some things we can make money. Like, look, what are you
I
doing?
know. Me and
What
you
are you
sit here
doing?
like
What are you
this.
doing, Mike? And he's like, well, hold up. Let's just make sure, from an ethical stand. I'm like,
I'm
Mike,
like, Mike, fuck
no.
your ethics.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, Mike, like, we have an opportunity. He's extremely ethical.
Hmm.
He's extremely research. He genuinely cares about people.
He
And he's
does.
proven that to me over time for the last 10, 12, 13 years
Hmm.
that when Mike's like, hey, this is what I think you should do. And I've seen him do really weird things. He had a consult with a girl one time and he's listening to her, listening to her. Okay, yep. Okay, he's writing notes. Okay. All right, talking to her, asking questions. And I'm just sitting here, I'm amazed. And I'm just like, man, he's asking these crazy questions. And he goes, have you ever worked in an environment with like leaky faucets, asbestos
Black
type
mold.
black moldish? And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I worked in an office one time and there were some black mold issues and we had to go somewhere else. He's like, yeah, that sounds like that's the problem. I'm like, Mike, where where did that come out of your brain that
Hmm.
you're just like black mold?
Yeah. He's the best.
And I'm just like, oh, you just had a sinus infection for the last 6 months, right?
Hmm.
And Mike's like,
Hmm.
black mold. And it's like, all right, this is what you want to do. Ding, 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 ding. She goes ding,
Hmm.
ding, 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 ding. Does a follow backup call in like 6 weeks and like 30, 40, 50% decrease in symptoms. I'm
Hmm.
like, you're a wizard. I
Wizard.
go,
Hmm.
you are. I don't, that blows my mind.
He's my personal
And
RFK.
he did it all. He did it all on like $40-50 of supplements a month
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and some changes in like some food things
Mm-hmm.
and some exercise things and sunlight. And you think about the money she would have cost her to go through the typical everyday what we see with medicine now, thousands of dollars, long-term medications, crazy doctors, crazy diagnosis, and that did it. That did it for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's I really hope that's where we go in medicine.
me
I
too.
I say this and I think Mike can change people's lives. I really do.
I
Like
know, I'm right there
I
with you.
really do. And is it in combination with like what we do? Yeah, right. I really
Yeah.
do believe that. I do believe that me, you, Mike, the things we do. This is hope this doesn't offend anybody. With all due respect, I can do so much more for you with him than a general doctor can.
Yeah, totally agree.
I really truly believe that.
And for
Right.
cheaper.
And for
Mm-hmm.
cheaper, for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's my spiel. That's my spiel on
That's
why
our
you're not
tangent for
losing
the
it.
day.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's November 6th, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a whole conversation before this based on the date and everything that went on today. That was crazy. So number 27 in the books, right?
Did
27?
it. Mm-hmm.
All right. They changed my
Bye, y'all.
platform here, so I gotta do
With all due respect.